Welcome, everyone, to the Pick Six podcast, where we discuss the biggest stories in college football. I'm your host, Chris Chang, and as a reminder, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us get these videos up and out there into the interwebs. Also, be sure to send us your story ideas to thepick6guys@gmail.com. We want to know, what do you guys want to see and hear us talk about? Address in the description below. Now, guys, I've been hinting about the changes to the college football landscape since the beginning of this show. Last year, it was realignment. This year, it's the coaching carousel. Now, these things may seem a little boring to what's happening on the field, but hopefully I can lay out just how truly impactful these moves will be for the college football picture moving forward. So, for the third weekend in a row, another Power Four program has fired its coach. LSU has fired Brian Kelly midway through his fourth season after the Tigers, who had hopes of making the college football playoffs and competing for a national title, fell to 5-3 on the season. Now, the dismissal coming just hours after the drubbing by Texas A&M 49-25 at Tiger Stadium. This would mark the second year in a row that they were blown out by the Aggies, despite leading at halftime. Now, the student section didn't hold back and were very vocal with their displeasure as chants of "Fire Brian Kelly" could be heard over the broadcast. Kelly is owed around $54 million in buyout money if paid in full. It would be the second largest buyout in college football history. Now, Kelly compiled a 34-14 record over just 4 seasons at LSU, winning just under 71% of his games. But the Tigers have lost 3 of the past 4 games, all in the SEC. Now, that's not technically a bad record, considering, the win percentage, but in this era of college football at an institution like LSU, this clearly was not up to snuff. Now, what I want to get into with this story in particular is the parallels between LSU and A&M, because they are wild. Now, this first all began when A&M joined the SEC back in 2012. Let's go back, right? And replace their long-standing season closing rivalry game with Texas with LSU. Then, 2 years ago, Texas A&M booted Jimbo Fisher to the tune of more than $70 million, making it the biggest buyout in college football history. Now, on Sunday, Brian Kelly reportedly picked up the second largest buyout ever. Now, can you guess how these two are related? Those situations had one person in common, a gentleman by the name of Scott Woodward. Now, Woodward was the athletic director at A&M before coming to LSU in 2019. He hired both coaches and orchestrated, or at least approve, both of these contracts, which are now costing both of these institutions more than $130 million combined. But the story gets deeper. Get this, follow me, right? Around that same time Jimbo was getting his notice, LSU and the newly hired Brian Kelly fired longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt. Now, can you guess where Moffitt landed after he got the pink slip? That's right, Texas A&M. Now, who has also shoved LSU in the closet the last 2 years? Yep, that would also be Texas A&M. Now, I couldn't write a better soap opera if I wanted to, and to see all of this kind of come into fruition, it's been a pretty wild season in story. Now, with Brian Kelly fired, there are currently openings at 9 major programs in the Power Four. Now, that's be believed to be a record, and October isn't even finished yet, guys. The high-profile college football head coaching job openings that are now available include LSU, Penn State, and Florida, with more openings at other schools like Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Stanford, and UCLA. But we could also see openings at FSU, Auburn, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Baylor within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it is getting wild. And this is costing way, way too much. We are seeing way too much money owed. With all of these mid-season firings, we see college football teams on the hook for over $169 million in buyouts so far this season. We got Brian Kelly at LSU, who's owed $53 million. James Franklin is owed $49.7 million by Penn State. Billy Napier is owed $21 million. Mike Gundy is owed $15 million. Sam Pittman, $9.8 million. You can see all the coaches over there. It is absolutely wild. And what's even crazier about all these numbers is these are just the numbers for the head coaches buyouts. We haven't even factored in the numbers for the coordinators or the assistants buyouts. Then you got to go pay the buyout of the coach you want, pay them, then pay for their coordinators and assistants. We could probably and most likely will see a $250 million, maybe even a $500 million coaching flip this season. I mean, when you think about the money being exchanged in college football right now, it's insanity. Like, if I was to tell someone this 30 years ago that we're going to have nearly $250 million to a $500 million being exchanged just for coaches, let alone players, you would never believe me. Which, again, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the leveraging of these schools, ooh, the things they're putting themselves through, they better knock it out of the park because honestly, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford it moving forward. So, maybe that's what happens, or maybe we're going to see more contracts be restructured that put a bulk of the money in incentives. In other words, maybe like for wins, bowl appearances, college football playoff appearances, maybe recruiting rankings, who knows? Also, what we need to think about in all of this is that this isn't happening behind closed doors or in a vacuum. Players and their agents are seeing this massive movement of money. Do you think they're going to start asking for you think they're just going to be sit there and be happy with what they have? They're probably going to start asking for more because clearly no one's pockets are hurting. And to be honest with you, I don't think any of these moves are good. Which leads me to the whole crux of this whole issue. Now, while the story of Brian Kelly is unique in its own vein and its own life, what I believe this is a cautionary tale. Let's go back to a shock hiring in 2022, right? LSU was able to pry him away from Notre Dame with a 10-year, $95 million contract after 12 seasons and a nearly 75% winning percentage. So, listen, Brian Kelly, say what you want about the guy. The guy can win, right? Did it at Notre Dame, did it at Cincinnati, obviously, which is how we got the Notre Dame job. Now at LSU. But follow me here, all right? Many believe, including Kelly, that he could have won a national championship at Notre Dame and needed the SEC rich talent pool to achieve the levels of success that he always dreamed about. Now, here is where I think most coaches get it wrong. It's their hubris. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I'm not going to sit here and say that no one should have higher aspirations. I think everyone should always be striving for the best and what's in their best interest. With that said, however, your boy is 5'10 on a good day. And I got a Hobbit mother and a Chinese father. So, needless to say, basketball was never in the cards for me. All right. And a lot of these head coaches and coordinators and even positions coaches are not meant for more than what they're at. I mean, sometimes you have to look at what you've got and realize you've got a good, let me check it, a great thing going on. I mean, too many times we see coaches up and leave a program that they were building and building a successful program nonetheless, at only to get fired because they're in over their heads at their next job, right? Brian Kelly had a great thing at Notre Dame. He was competing for national championships and holding the title of the most winningest coach at one of the most esteemed programs, getting top 10 recruiting classes, only to find himself in on the unemployment line 3.5 years later, right? I mean, obviously, no matter how successful you are, you can find yourself in this situation, right? And yes, I know he's going to find himself another position. He's going to find himself another job. But history shows us that few coaches rebound to the heights of their success that they once had. It's almost like a downward spiral into irrelevancy, to be honest, right? And if you don't believe me, I've actually put some examples here. Let's go over them. Let's look at Scott Frost, right? He had that undefeated season at UCF, wanted to go back to his alma mater at Nebraska, probably was a little bit more than he could bite off, and he found himself in dire straits, right? Charlie Strong, super successful as a coordinator at UF, went on to become the head coach at Louisville. Great success, almost the same winning percentage as Brian Kelly, right? At Louisville. Took the Texas job, crash and burn. Then we have Will Muschamp. Anywhere he went, he wasn't successful, but he's a fantastic defensive coordinator and defensive coach. I mean, the guy is obviously very good at what he does, just not head coaching. Then there's Tom Herman, right? Super successful at Houston, right? Built a great program there, helped sustain it, right? He goes over to Texas after Charlie Strong. What happens to him? Same thing as Charlie Strong, gets in and over his head. Now look at this season. We've got Mike Norvell, the Memphis guy, super good at the G5, doing great. Goes to FSU. Yes, he had the one undefeated season. Yes, he won an ACC title. It's is that Mike or is that the FSU brand, right? I, I'm going to lean FSU brand because FSU was successful before him. I'm sure they'll be successful after him. Needless to say. And then finally, we move on to our boy Billy at the University of Louisiana. Super successful, 3 10-win seasons in a row. Goes to UF again. Another crash and burn. Listen, I'm not saying all of this because, again, I don't think people should try to strive for better, but I think you can look at what you're building, see your strengths, and go, you know what? What if I stay here? Right. And here's another thing, which I think is actually super applicable to what's happening in today's college football, specifically, literally right now, is again, we're seeing vacancies at 12, 13, with upwards of 18 vacancies possible, right? That's not going to include if they pluck coaches from other programs. Then you're going into 20, 25 programs that are going to be impacted, right? What if coaches just stayed put, right? Let's just take Lane Kiffin, for example, right? Lane Kiffin, look, in today's model, Ole Miss can compete for a national championship. They just need some money, right? And you've got a proven winner in Lane Kiffin. He does really well in the portal. Not so great in recruiting, but with the portal, you can make a good run, right? Why does he need to leave? Why does he need to go to LSU? Why does he need to go to Florida? Why would he want to deal with the toxicity at both of those institutions, right? And not to mention that you've heard it said, Lane Kiffin has a very long leash at Ole Miss. Leash ain't gonna be that long. He ain't gonna have that kind of freedom at LSU or Florida. So why would he leave again and again? Let's think of other coaches, right? These programs are weak right now. They're wounded and they're down, right? Why not just stay where you're at? You've like rallied the troops, get some more money going, and continue competing, right? Because again, you move over to another school. Lord knows, I just gave it. You see it right here. It's all right here. Great examples. And this is recent, by the way. This isn't the history of college football. This is recent history. This is like the last 10 years or less, right? So, in my opinion, I think a lot of coaches, right? And I'll even look at our own program. Let's look at UM, right? I think, again, I've teased this before. I think if Mario could release and give a little bit more autonomy to his coordinators and let Heatherman have full control over the defense, let Shannon Dawson have full control of the offense, and let him just be the CEO and work on recruiting, pay them whatever they want, you can't lose. I'm not saying Shannon Dawson is the greatest offensive coordinator of all time, but we're winning. We've been successful under him. And until that proves otherwise, keep him. Because who's to say that Shannon Dawson's been in talks for the Virginia Tech job, maybe for a G5 job that might open because they move up. But there's no certainty that he's going to win there or have the success. I mean, if he stays at Miami, he could win a national championship, several national championships. Lane Kiffin, if he stays at Ole Miss, he can win a national championship, several. Eli Drinkowitz can win. Maybe not in Missouri, but do you know where I'm going with this? You hear where I'm going with this, right? It's not like these people have to up and leave. It's not required anymore. You don't need to play at a blue chip university anymore to win a national championship. It's really about the money. Even Nick Saban admitted it, right? Nick Saban's like, hey, money money is the most important thing. It's not everything, but it is the most important thing. And so, I mean, you guys let me know. Am I off? Am I off base? Do I have a point? What are your guys' thoughts? What are your guys' 2 cents when it comes to all these coaching changes? Is this a good thing for the sport? Is this a bad thing for the sport? I want to know. I mean, I don't get all these things right, but in my opinion, like I said, as I've seen these coaching changes over the season, I've seen so many just units that worked really well together, got really great players and established programs, and then just to watch it fall apart because someone wanted to chase their dreams. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying people shouldn't chase their dreams. I think once you get to a certain point and the winning becomes a little stale, as stupid as that sounds, that's when I think, yeah, it's time to move on. But again, imagine if Brian Kelly stayed at Notre Dame. I mean, Marcus Freeman got them to the championship. You don't think that Brian Kelly could have? You think that was all Marcus Freeman? Again, we have to really be honest with ourselves, and especially going into this next era of college football. Is it the coaches? Is it the program? Is it the players? I like to believe it's a healthy mixture of all three. It's synergistic between all three. But gone are the days of head coaches who would dial up these super schemes. And no, you're going to have the right Jimmies and Joes. You are going to have the right X's and O's, but you're also going to have a good program. And by program, I mean collective for NIL, resources, things like that. So we're going to have to see where this whole thing goes. I want to know what you guys think. Where's this going to go? Haven't discussed coaching candidates because honestly, we aren't going to find out again for another month or two at the earliest. At the earliest. So why even discuss? Because we have no idea where this thing's going to go. Well, guys, we have made it to the end of another episode. We've got another episode in the books. Thank you all for watching. We will see you guys on Friday for our week 10. Guys, week 10. We are already at week 10 preview. Be good, y'all. And as always, go Canes.